Funding for this program was provided by the Annenberg CPB project.
Many of us have found ourselves in this situation. In the heat of the moment, how do you know what to do, what to say? What can we do to help stop situations from getting out of control? And, perhaps even more important, prevent discipline problems from even starting? Hello, I'm Joanne Hendrick. I wrote the book, The Whole Child, so that parents, teachers, and caregivers would have an additional source to go to for guidance, direction, and most importantly, for support. Our children ask an awful lot of us, as well they should, but just as we need to be there for them, so I hope my book, and now this television series based on The Whole Child, can be there for you. On this program, the issue is self-discipline and control, and our challenge is to learn how to teach the youngsters in our care not only to know what is right, but to do what is right. We all dream about days like this, when the little ones are on their best behavior and all is peaceful and harmonious. But in the real world, we all know these moments are few and far between. In the real world of childcare, children, like adults, just don't always get along.
Oh, we gotta see her. I have this one.
How many of us have found ourselves in this situation? In the heat of the moment, how do you know what to do, what to say, how to act? What can we do to help stop situations from getting out of control? And, perhaps even more important, prevent discipline problems from even starting. Our goals for this program are simple. Together, we're going to learn what to do when a child won't stop doing something he shouldn't be doing, and how to help children control themselves instead of depending on other people to control them. The thing to really remember is that children shouldn't be allowed to hurt themselves, or other people, or destroy property. And when I say hurt, I mean verbally hurt as well as physically. No matter what those nursery rhymes say, when you're little, words can hurt every bit as much and more than sticks and stones. Crucial point to remember is that what discipline is really about is building self-control.
You need that right there?
The process of learning self-control and self-discipline is linked very closely with how a child feels about herself and her relationship to the world. Think of this process as being like a child playing with building blocks in a construction project. And we're the construction supervisors, making sure that with each contact we have with our children, we do or say something that can help build their ability to decide for themselves what's right and wrong and how to control their own behavior. But we must always remember that this is a tall order for such short people.
Miss Rachel's been busy setting up lots of different choices for you guys to do. I think Rhinosaurus is ready to go make a choice at station time. And Victoriasaurus is ready to go make a choice. Zariasaurus can go make a choice at a station.
It's wonderful when we can count on children to do the right thing because they want to, not because they have to. One of the best ways to make this happen is to provide as many opportunities as possible for youngsters to make their own choices and decisions. We have to keep in mind that whenever we give a child a choice, we should be prepared to honor their decision. So we'd better think carefully before we offer one.
Excuse me is a word we say, and then we ask the person to move. Excuse me is a way of letting them know you need to be in that space. We don't need to push them left. If you want to make another choice, there's other stations open.
How many times have we caught ourselves asking no in questions such as, would you like, or would you do it okay? And then we don't like the answer. We've asked children to make a choice, but then we can't accept their decision. It's not fair to the child, and it really puts you on the spot too. But if you can't ask these questions, what are some questions you can ask? Questions that would allow children to make their own choices. Choices that will work for both of you.
I might say to them, especially if it starts to be a problem where they interfere in other children's play, I might say to them, let me, or is there something that you'd like to do? And I would take their hand and walk them around rather than telling them, you need to go over here or you need to go over there. Then I walk them around the room and say, look what we have here. This is how this works. Would you like to do that? If they shake their head and say no, I said, okay, let's go look at something else and see. So that way you're not forcing your choice on them, but you're allowing them to make that choice of what they would like to do, but still directing them into a more positive activity.
You want to join the group? Okay, get a chair for me on the table and pull it.
There are some tricky things about choices, though, that you have to remember. For one thing, never end a question with okay unless it's really all right with you for the child to say no. It's also very important that our children experience the results and consequences of their decisions. For instance, if a child chooses to skip his snack and then changes his mind at the last minute, what would you do? How would you respond? And why? There are no absolutes when working with children, and there's always a place for mercy. But I've learned that helping them stick to decisions once they're made teaches youngsters to make responsible choices. And of course, parents and teachers must never forget that in the real world of children, as in the real world of adults, not everything is a choice. Not everything's negotiable. Sometimes we just have to say no to our children and mean it.
There you go. All right. You smile. Is that good? Yeah. All right. All through.
The foundation for self-discipline and self-control begins with infancy. What kinds of steps do you think you can take, even with infants, to promote a child's positive sense of self? Steps that, as the child develops, can contribute to maintaining at least some degree of self-discipline and self-control.
Jack, what are we going to do about snack today? Would you like to be last? No? Would you like snack at all? Would you? Yeah. Well, you two are in here and all of our friends are washing their hands.
Our goal should be to guide and discipline our children so that they feel supported and valued, not judged and rejected.
Here. You hold one and I'll hold one. Here, you hold one and I'll hold one. There you go. Where will we put it? You're going to put yours there? I'm going to put mine right here. Roll up your sleeves.
Warm, nurturing relationships, plus firm controls, combined with the reasons for rules, can go a long way in promoting self-discipline and self-control in children.
It's not okay to get it too close to your eyes. I need you to keep it away
I know.
from off of your eyelids.
I'm not doing that.
You're not going to do your eyes, Tanya?
It's really pretty if you do your eyes.
But she's remembering that the rule is that we can't put the face paint around our eyes because that's how we spread germs. And we spread germs by putting it in our mouth, too.
I didn't put it in my mouth.
Jordan, this is too close to your eye, and that's not a choice.
We can put it underneath.
We can help by being consistent with our children in words and deeds. Children appreciate knowing just what the rules are at home or in the classroom. That way, they know where they stand and what will happen if they cross the line.
Remember, we must keep our glasses on to protect our eyes, okay?
We teach limits by example.
Well, Miss Hammer put it on very easy. Just to protect your eyes so you won't hit your eyes with the hammer or the nails pop in your eyes, okay?
There's no running in the classroom. The limit for that is safety reasons. It's safer to walk in the classroom. If you're running around a table and you hit the chair, you're going to get hurt. If you walk around the table, you have a better chance of not hitting that chair. And when they understand that limit in the health perspective, it's better. They can more readily understand why that's a rule.
Let go of her dress. It is not okay. It is not okay. Let go of her dress. Let go. Let go. It's gonna rip. Did Shannon have the toy first? But Shannon was playing with it. Can we take turns? Yes?
Just as a child's understanding of right and wrong is different from an adult's, so are a younger child's perceptions different from an older child, which is why it's so important to approach aggressive behavior according to the age of each youngster. Children simply behave differently at different ages. For instance, would you discipline an 18-month-old the same way you would a 5-year-old? Why not? Physical aggression of one kind or another is very common during the early years and is an unavoidable part of the developmental process. But let's ask ourselves, what can we do to reduce the intensity and number of aggressive episodes with the children in our care? Of course, preventing problems before they start is the ideal thing to do. Can you see how the basketball net's in the center so there's a lot of room and that the teacher's close by? See the way the teacher positions herself in the room so that all the youngsters can reach her? Here are some tips that can help prevent incidents of harmful aggression before they start. Position yourself so that you're able to see a large area of the room or the play yard. Rather than suddenly stopping an activity, warn your children in advance that time is almost up. Remember, our goal is to teach our children how to solve their own problems, since as adults, they won't have a teacher or a parent there to arbitrate and settle their differences. But what do you do when a situation's already in process and it could either stop by itself or it could get worse? How do we decide when to get involved and when to let children simply settle the fight between themselves? I have 2 rules I generally follow, which help me decide when to intervene and when not to. I ask myself, if this continues, what is the likelihood of somebody getting hurt or property being damaged? And then, if trouble is really brewing, be decisive. Take action yourself before the child does. This is critical.
Stevie, Chaz has to sit down. Sit down. Sit down.
Of course, in the real world, children don't always stop hitting, grabbing, or throwing just because we tell them to stop or redirect them. So what do we do when no matter what we say or what we do, a child simply refuses to listen or obey, and the situation is threatening to get out of control? Here are 6 steps I've always found helpful, and I would follow them in this order if possible. Number 1, warn the child. Number 2, remove the child. Number 3, discuss feelings and rules. Number 4, involve him in the decision as to when he should return. Number 5, help him return and be more successful. And number 6, if the child repeats a behavior, remove him again and insist that he choose another place to play. These 6 steps are so important. Let's talk about what each of them really means.
And the master needs to go or you need to leave the room.
Warn the child and redirect him if he will accept such redirection. It's important to make the child understand that his behavior is up to him. It's his choice. But if he chooses to continue, you'll see to it that you'll carry out your warning.
It's time to leave. You may not sit at the snack table when you're making all of that noise.
If necessary, remove the child promptly and keep him with you. If he persists in doing what he's been told not to do, act calmly and promptly Remove him and insist he sit beside you, telling him he's lost the privilege of doing whatever he was doing. Why might this be better than just letting him run off? For one thing, having him sit beside you interrupts what he wants to do. It's a mildly unpleasant consequence of his act. And it also prevents him from substituting something else he'd enjoy, or taunting you, or running away.
Now you need to show me you can do it.
While this teacher has the rare opportunity of removing herself and the child from the room, usually teachers can't do that. But you can always have him stay with you.
Ready to try again?
Discuss feelings and rules after a reasonable degree of calm has taken place. This is a very important part of handling a discipline crisis.
You may say that's at home, if your mommy wants you to, but at school, that tiger may not come to school. All right?
Be sure to involve the child in the decision about when to go back, because taking responsibility for his own behavior is a crucial part of instilling self-control.
Okay, you go to the door. Stay here for me. Okay, Stevie, are you ready to come pick up the books now? Good job, Gloria. I think you're gonna clean those up. I like that, Stevie. Good job.
It's important to help the child be successful when he does go back, so that he has the experience of substituting acceptable for unacceptable behavior. It'll probably be necessary to take a few minutes and get him really interested. Be sure to congratulate the child when he's settled down, perhaps saying, "Well, now you're doing the right thing, and I'm proud of you." I can hear you saying going through these steps is just fine, but what if he goes back and does the same thing again? What then? Well, then we have to go through the steps again. But after that, he has to choose another place to play. You may have noticed that I didn't include any timeouts as one of my intervention steps, and I'll tell you why. Although I believe timeout is certainly an improvement over spanking, yelling, or worst yet, shaking a child, it still has its drawbacks. What do you think concerns me most about it? Note that when this teacher says time out, she does not send the child off to sit by himself. Instead, she keeps him with her.
You won't do it anymore. You're going to sit in timeout for a few minutes. I know, that's why you're going to sit in timeout, then you won't do it anymore. Jamal, right here. Right here. Right here.
Here's my problem with timeouts. First of all, it's real easy for a child to feel emotionally abandoned when she's sent off by herself. Besides that, we frequently become involved in secondary struggles when the child tries to sneak away and we have to catch her. Also, many timeouts go on way too long, either because it's such a relief for us to have the child removed or because we forget she's there. For all these reasons, despite its short-term convenience, in the long run, I just feel it's more desirable and helpful to the child to keep her nearby.
It's a boogie walk.
It is? You're right. What's it say? Step out.
Step out to the left, step out to the right. Jump, jump, jump. The boogie walk.
Although we may not know what to do with it sometimes, we still have to remember that some kind of aggressive behavior is common during the early years. Still, there is a limit, and there's much we can do to help our children let off a little steam. One way we can help is to provide plenty of large motor activity and other opportunities for our children to use up their energy. In some situations, noise can also be an excellent outlet for expressing aggression. Yes, and sometimes there's nothing like a good bashing of the Play-Doh or hammering the old workbench to relieve stress, tension, and aggressive feelings in a child.
She is and you are.
What?
You are some scary monsters.
Some scary monsters.
My philosophy is that, like our children, we're human too. But we're also role models, and intense anger can frighten children. That's why it's particularly important for us to recognize and control our flashpoints, especially on those dark days when it seems like your children know just where and when to push all your wrong buttons.
That kind of hurts my feelings when you call me a monster. But it makes me sad.
There's a monster.
I'm sorry that you feel that way.
You're a monster.
What kinds of things get under your skin when you're working with children? Which one of your buttons do they push that can send you over the edge?
Whoa. They're going to grow, you're right. Stevie, you needed to just look at the plants. Kayla, just sit down and look at them, okay? We're going to have to fix this plant and put all the dirt back. You may take a seat, Samantha.
First of all, you have to go into it with a lot of patience, and when that becomes short-lived, then I always, I take a deep breath, count to 10, maybe walk away from a situation for a minute, let one of the other teachers take care of it.
Oh, I'm sorry that you feel that way. I think I am a teacher, and that I miss Diane.
You're a monster.
Come and help me, or
You can't fool children. Let's not pretend to be okay when we're actually angry. I say, why not do with our children what we expect them to do with us? Let's talk about it. Let's get those feelings out and put them right on the table.
You know what, Erica, you could call me Miss Diane, or you could call me Diane. But it really hurts my feelings when you call me a monster. Why do you think so?
So, let's review what we've learned about instilling self-control and self-discipline in our children. Our challenge in this program was to learn how to teach our youngsters not only to know what is right, but to do what is right.
Steve, take a seat like the other kids are doing. It's not crazy.
Remember, there are ways to stop problems before they start. Let's review what we've learned about prevention. Consistently position yourself so that you're able to see a large area of the room or play yard at the same time. Warn ahead to make transitions easier.
If you're ready for our snack, clap your hands.
And if these should fail, here are 6 steps that will help you regain control.
Ready for snack.
Number 1, warn the child. Number 2, remove her. Number 3, discuss feelings and rules. Number 4, wait for her to decide when she's ready to return. Number 5, help her return and be more successful. And number 6, if necessary, remove again and insist she choose another place to play. And finally, we should recognize that children aren't the only ones who get angry or mad. It helps to know and recognize our own flashpoints and which buttons are likely to set us off when our children push them, so that then we can hold on to our own self-control.
I think generally you'll find that the same child will repeat the same behavior. So you almost feel like you're knocking your head against a wall sometimes, because you're trying to help them change a certain behavior, you're trying to teach them and guide them to change, but it doesn't happen overnight.
Asia, way to go. Good work. Jeremy, way to go. Nice work. Think that piece might go someplace else? Well, look, there's some blue here. Let's see if we find a piece that has a little bit of blue on it.
As caregivers, we must realize that establishing inner controls and self-discipline is a long process that takes many years. It takes a lot of practice and repetition, not only for our children, but for us as well.
Way to go. Nice job.
Let's face it, even on a good day, childcare is a challenge. None of us handles every discipline situation perfectly. None of us handles every situation perfectly. But when one of those less than ideal situations happens, it's all too easy to spend precious energy on feeling guilty or regretful about how things turned out. But really, we should try to be more gentle on ourselves. Rather than feeling guilty, it would be more helpful to think about what the child learned from the experience. And, most importantly, what we learned. because when it comes to working with the whole child, the roles can sometimes get very blurred as to who's the teacher and who's the student. See you next time on The Whole Child.
Our country is a brilliant mosaic of colors and cultures. Every child in it is unique. It takes effort to keep prejudice from spoiling the picture. How to help children work together with special attention to respecting diversity. Next time on The Whole Child.
I'm thirsty too, yes I am.
Funding for this program was